I do think it has, a lot of positive impact, and just even from a mental perspective, it seems to be pretty awesome.
If you get hot and get cold, you will go to sleep, no matter how stressed you are. The bigger the engine, the bigger the set of brakes you need to have.
But more so than anything, again, it's just this mental side, like it's something I'm not good at, and I want to overcome that.
We're delaying the onset of those negative physiological effects that will screw you in the times that would matters the most, in a fight, in a competition, in life, in anything that you're doing. And that's all we're trying to do with the cold. It's just a tool.
When we, submerge ourselves in cold water, we release something called cold shock proteins. And these cold shock proteins are amazing. They can immediately raise the amount of norepinephrine that is secreted. That's that hormone is involved in vigilance, focus. That's why it's so good to do these first thing in the morning.
Cold plunging.
Cold plunging.
Be real, yo. I'm gonna be so real.
Under,
just
over.
You're saying over? All right, why?
Oh, just because it's like just so much on the internet. I don't think people can stand one more cold plunge. That's
true.
But I will say that I do think it has, a lot of positive impact, and just even from a mental perspective, it seems to be pretty awesome.
Yeah. I know it's all over the place. I know every fitness influencer is talking about cold plunging for their mental health. Yeah. But training as much as I do, and the amount of fatigue that I get on my body, the cold plunge has really made a big difference. I'm doing a lot of jujitsu. I'm getting in the gym. You've mentioned it before, how after a hard run or something, you'll get in there and afterwards you just feel better. The inflammation's down, you recover faster. I'm so thankful that actually we were able to start doing this a while ago, and that we're on the cold plunge train. I know it's trendy, I get it, but at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck if something's trendy if it's making a difference for my performance. I really don't. I'll be that guy. I think it's underrated. And I know some people, you may not be able to get in a cold plunge or whatever. I get it. It is what it is. But if you are able to at some point and you're an athlete, it will benefit you. That's it.
Yeah, I've mentioned it many times before, but the mental benefits, I've tried a bunch of stuff to help put me in a better mood or whatever. They all can't even get close to this. And then also, I've never really done too many difficult things in my life. I have a pretty good life. I noticed that more people signed up in my division for my tournament coming up. And I'm like, these fuckers aren't getting into a cold plunge. And I jumped right in. Because I'm doing the hard thing that they're not willing to do.
I feel you.
So there's some mental I don't know if it's mental toughness, but there's some thing going on there where you're not a lot of people are willing to do this. I'm going to go do it right now. And then you come out of it and you feel like a freaking superhero. It feels incredible.
I see you guys doing all kinds of weird shit, and I think you guys are exercising on the bottom of your pool and stuff like that sometimes. I don't know what the hell's going on over there. That's why I haven't come over in a long time.
You're scared?
I'm I don't want to be subject to any of this stuff.
You don't want to drown?
Look, the research is really clear. Sauning is great for you. There's more and more data coming out around cold water immersion exposure, just getting cold and shivering, making yourself cold for a few minutes.
Brown fat.
I think one of the reasons, forget all that. We love that if you get hot and get cold, you will go to sleep, no matter how stressed you are. So one of the feelings that we have is the bigger the engine, the bigger the set of brakes you need to have. And for us, we're lucky enough to have a sauna and a cold plunge in our house. We don't have to go anywhere. And no matter how stressed we are, we go sit in there. It's kind of dim. We have to talk. It's super hot. Then we get cold, and then it breaks us every single time. You can look at it simply as warming up and cooling down are two of the most expensive things your body does. Yeah. And if you swing back and forth, make your body do that, it's going to exhaust you. You're also going to become more effective at it. So if you end up in a cold environment or hot environment, you're going to be better at handling those things. You can look at it range of motion for your vasculature, just so that you can handle and have better circulation to your feet and your hands. But also, it's fun. It's super entertainment. So there's the J-Star.
There we go. I mean, I would just like to say, though, one other thing that is not always appreciated about the sauna and is that, man, we've had some of the greatest and best interactions and conversations with our friends in the sauna.
I thought you were going to say sex.
No. You already said genitals earlier, and I felt uncomfortable. No, we use the sauna as a social tool, just as an example, not to make a sad example, but one of our dear friends lost his parent recently, and he and Kelly just sat in the sauna for an hour and a half, and they talked and connected and processed, and it just was it's a phone free. You can't bring your phone in there, so it's just this lovely place to actually have some human connection, and whether that's with your spouse or your friends or whoever. So it's just like one of the things we love about the sauna. So how about you come down and sit in the sauna, and we won't even make you go in the pool. Both of you guys.
Is that a burger place still next to you guys?
No, it went out of business.
God damn, that place was good.
I know. And you were on the wall.
Grass-fed, grass-finished beef. That was awesome.
Wait, you're on the wall? For what? What'd you do?
They put like a picture of me squatting or something on there.
It was you guys came in one time, and then she took a photo, and they were like, world champions eat Wheezy's burgers.
Yeah.
And they had like a fat chicken was like their logo or something.
Yeah.
Of course, it's called Wheezy's. That's the way you used to breathe.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That's all they could hear. Andrew, I sent you over a clip. We got like more of the scientific facts on the cold plunging. Andrew,
Huberman says that
this is from a guy that's in Huberman's lab, I think.
Oh God, hold on.
You know, I just saw research that came out around cold water. They put military in the cold water, and guys had better sex. They had better subjective perceived readiness. So some of this is just can be entertainment. You know, I think Michael Easter wrote a great book called The Comfort Crisis.
Yep.
And there's a reason, like being a little bit uncomfortable, disrupting homeostasis is good for us. I think it's why some people don't like exercise. It's uncomfortable. So any way where we can find ourselves to be uncomfortable a little bit, I think, die a little bit every day. That's, getting cold is simple.
I think here's our clip.
Plunge probably 2 or 3 times a day sometimes. What I like to do is really keep my body guessing, and I'll just find somewhere to plunge naturally. If I'm walking out on a hike and I see a creek, it's cold outside, the creek's cold, I'll jump in and hit a plunge, See, the benefits to cold plunging are
Oh my God, I love his hair. I'm obsessed with his hair.
Where'd them sound go?
Oh, hey, is it still going?
It's cold plunge.
Yeah. My bad.
Your body's guessing on multiple levels. I actually created my own method for cold plunging. I call it ISO plunge, and what I do is isolate a body part in the cold. You can do a hand at a time.
Science.
You can do a foot at a time. You can actually do it at home if you just open the freezer.
Look at his arms in the freezer.
I actually think I read somewhere that if you cold plunge regularly, you don't really even have to watch your diet or your exercise because your body's going to be
got all the facts right there.
Trying to stay warm. Yeah, I'll hit a plunge.
How do you guys
love this guy?
You've heard of how it affects inflammation? So like post lifting cold plunging. How do you guys feel about that? Because that's some people are fighting against people cold plunging because of that partially.
Yeah,
I would say that Huberman says no. We actually started to realize that cold was blunting the body's response to adaptation. Mm-hmm. So it's blunting the adaptation response. So if you're trying to have, and we started to see this in a lot of our professional soccer teams, Premier Soccer, they were keeping some of the cold water immersion as far enough away from the training as they could so that the athlete could have a natural response. We could maximize that and then get cold. So getting cold first thing in the morning when they've overnight sleep, they were finding, and they were using it sort of periodizing the cold.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'd put it in, sometimes they'd want to wait on it. I think for the average person, if you can get cold and it's something you enjoy, do it when it works for you. Mm-hmm. But if you're trying to get really strong or you're trying to change some aspect of your physiology and that cold water immersion maybe limits that in some way because that's really the limiting factor, then maybe you need to, again, just put it a little bit further away.
Yeah.
I think the only exception to that is we have athletes like at the CrossFit Games it's 100 degrees there and their core temperature is really high. So jumping in to drop your core temperature after a hot run might be a really good way to speed up your ability to recover because you're not spending all that energy cooling. Mm-hmm. You're spending that energy recovering. Mm. Again, I think we're like, well, I'm elite. I'm a 50-year-old middle-aged mountain bike guy with a fake knee. Like, I'll keep my cold plunge away from my 5 squats with 60 kilos. Mm-hmm. Don't want to blunt my adaptation. Like, I think we're a little precious.
Yeah.
What has been a message that maybe has been hard for you guys, like where you communicate it to people, but it seems like they're having a hard time to adapt to it? Is it the changing of eating more protein? Is it the sleep? Like, where do you find most people are just even with all the suggestions and saying like, hey, make your living room your kind of mobility area. Like, what do you think most people are struggling to actually adopt?
I'm sure Kelly will have an idea, but I think what I think, and it is also a challenge in our regular business, the ready state, is to get people to care now about their range of motion. As you guys both know, a lot of people find us because they get injured. And that's sort of their first foray into,
or they've got pain that's limiting them from doing something.
Yeah, the pain they're injured or pain's limiting them. And I think this book is one of the ways we're trying to do this is to, teach people to care before they're injured or before they're, suffering from chronic pain. And so I think we hope we've taken a swing for the fences here with this book to try to make it really accessible and relatable and explain to people why they should care and why they should care about spending some time working on their range of motion even when they're 30 years old. Not just because you want to sit with your grandchild when you're 67, but because now it's going to reap a lot of benefits for your athletic performance or reduce your chances of injury or make sure you're pain-free. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to do it now at any age. But I think that's the biggest challenge is people kind of know they should care about nutrition and sleep and, breathing is becoming more of a thing with Wim Hof and it's become kind of hip. So people are sort of aware of it. But I think it's getting people to care about their range of motion and really care about working on it now because a lot of it is use it or lose it.
Range of motion, maybe even in just a sense of like being able to do most of the things that you're...
Yeah. And that's exactly what I mean.
Without pain.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I were to describe like what mobility is, to me, mobility is the ability to move freely and do the things you want to do without pain. I mean, to me, that's
And someone says, "Hey, let's play some volleyball," and you don't tear your Achilles tendon.
Exactly. Like you want to be able to do that off the couch, or you want to be able to go on a rafting trip with your family if that's what you're going to do this summer or whatever. You just want to be able to do what you want to do physically. So to me, that's what mobility actually is. What a lot of the things we do are mobilizations, which are soft tissue techniques and other mobilizations that help support mobility. But to me, that's really what mobility is to be able to do what you want to do with your body.
You've been cold plunging for a while now, and you do a lot of work. What have you noticed? How's it been a part of your routine?
Yeah, I mean, I think the cold plunge, for me, it's really hard. It's really hard. I'd love to admit that I'm some tough guy. When it comes to the cold, I'm not a tough guy. I'm weak, and it's an area of improvement for me. That's why I wanted it. Whereas Ava, dude, she gets right in that thing. Like, she makes me feel like such a wimp. And so, but the cold plunge has been good because of the mental side, right? You don't want to do it and you overcome that adversity, right? And then when you're in it, I think it has good benefits in terms of like recovery, but also just keep my body cold and having it to expend energy to get back to core temperature. I think it's some nice fat loss tool. But more so than anything, again, it's just this mental side, like it's something I'm not good at and I want to overcome that. And that's the most beneficial thing. So I probably do it on average 4 or 5 days a week. Ava does it every day.
How do you feel when you get out? Because you don't feel like cold. Cold. But do you feel like I personally, like I'm cold adapted now and I'm not driven to go in and do it. But every time afterwards, I always feel good for hours afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something everyone experiences, but that's what I experience.
Oh, dude, I feel like $1 million.
Okay. How long do you usually go in for?
5 minutes at 52 degrees.
Hey, you dropped it down though.
I did drop it down. Thank you very much, Andrew. I really appreciate that acknowledgement.
Well,
I was about to roast the fuck out of you.
No, the reason why I appreciate it is because my goal was to get to 55 because I'm like, fucking Khalipa can do it at 55. I could do it at 55. But then after a couple things happened, I didn't get into it for a while. And like, so I set everything up. I put water in it. And then like I checked and I'm like, damn, it's only at 65. I'm like, this will be easy. I got in, dude. It was the coldest it had ever been because I haven't been doing it for a long time. And I was like so shook. So I'm going to get back down to 55 and hang out there, and Nsima can stop looking at me that way.
Dude, so here's my logic, okay? They say the health benefits of the cold plunge occur when it's something that you want to resist and that
it makes you shiver.
It makes you shiver. So
you're like, I'm there, I'm shivering.
Yeah. If that for me is 52, then that for me is
52. Exactly. It still takes my breath away even at 60 right now.
The other logic is, and this is like totally, this is just me making this up, but I figured because I have my kids in it so much, if there was gonna be any haters or even for myself, be like, hey dude, you shouldn't be exposing your kids to these colds. I'd be like, bro, Santa Cruz Ocean's 50 whatever degrees. Right. I'm just putting it at ocean temperature here at the house.
Sneaky.
So there's nothing to get mad at me about. So you don't want my kids to go in the ocean? Okay. You know,
You just don't want to make it 39.
100%. It's so funny. I blame it on when people are like, oh, how cold are your cold? Be like, dude, my kids go in it, so I keep it. I keep it at 52. The reality is it's 100% on me.
Oh man,
it's real, and I haven't been able to get my hands in yet, dude.
So your hands stay out,
bro. I get down to my neck. Yeah. I'm good. But dude, my hands are like.
Have you tried going in with have you tried any breathing practices other than like just screaming and crying?
So, no, I thought you were gonna say if you tried a wetsuit, maybe I should try a wetsuit.
That would be dope. A wetsuit and winter cap, and you're just like in there, and you still don't have your hands all the way in.
I've tried some breathing techniques, but for the most part, man, like I wonder what my neighbors think because I go in like early in the morning.
I think that
and
too. Yeah,
I have like this saying. I'll be like, woo! And I'm just thinking my neighbors probably like this motherfucker's back in the plunge. Oh man,
that's awesome, dude.
I do have a good time with it though. The plunge has been a good addition.
I do like cold showers. I do like saunas, right? But is there anything that people can do outside of this that could be easy and that not even easy, just like something that they can do without having to get into a gym and get an ice bucket? Is there things that they could do that could yield this benefit?
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned a great one is cold showers. Again, you want to build up to, long cold showers. When I was training for the ice submersion record, and we can talk about that, but I use cold showers to kind of initiate that adaptation to cold exposure. Mm-hmm. It works. You expose yourself to cold water. You might start out with a warm shower, do your normal warm shower. Then let's say the last 30 seconds of your warm shower, turn it cold and go for 30 seconds. And then next go for about 45 seconds. Then over, the next week, go for a minute. And then maybe you build up to where you just start with that cold shower. Mm-hmm. But you'll notice that your response to the cold, that whether it's at the last 30 seconds or 45 seconds, and you do the whole thing, your response is what you have to look out for. Your heart rate, your breath. Right? It always comes down to the breath. So that first time, that last 30 seconds or even 15 seconds, you might just go, You see that breath? Oh my God, it's fine. Next time you do it, 30 seconds, you're just like, and then now you could do a whole shower where you're just like, and that's adaptation. I mean, your body has adapted. It's delayed the onset of fight or flight. And that's really what we're doing. We're delaying the onset of those negative physiological effects that will screw you in the times that what matters most, in a fight, in a competition, in life, in anything that you're doing. And that's all we're trying to do with the cold. It's just a tool.
You mentioned earlier about like stress and focus. And some of the stuff I've heard is that due to your interpretation of stress and maybe interpreting the stress as being harmful or just bad in a sense, that our focus gets to be pinpointed on like one particular thing. I mean, we see this sometimes when someone's frustrated with somebody and they're mentioning all these things to you and you're kind of thinking in your head, you're like, man, I wonder why they're so frustrated with this one particular person. But maybe they're so frustrated because they are focused on this singular thing and they can't really zoom out at all. Have you noticed with some of the training that you're doing that it's helped you in your personal life be able to maybe interpret some stresses that are coming your way in a little different manner? Or is it also maybe have been effective for some of the clients that you work with?
Our project family, how's it going? Now, as you guys know, we have been talking about cold therapy for a while. Mark, Andrew, and myself, we all use Cold Plunge XLs since we're pretty big. Mm-hmm. But the Cold Plunge is amazing. And there are a lot of cold therapy tools out there. Obviously, you can use your shower. But the amazing thing about the Cold Plunge is, number one, it doesn't take up much space in your home or your backyard. And number two, you don't need to change your water, unlike other cold therapy devices, for 6 months to a year. It filters itself. Let's not even talk about all the benefits of cold plunging, like the dopamine release, how good you feel after doing it, and just the cascade of hormones that happens after you get in some really cold water. It's crazy, and we love it. So, Andrew, how can they get it?
Absolutely. You guys got to head over to thecoldplunge.com, and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save $150 off your very own Cold Plunge. Again, thecoldplunge.com, links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Absolutely. So, I found in my life, when I encounter a stressor, it's more helpful for me to focus, to not necessarily be a multitasker and focus on the task that's in front of me or the stressor that's in front of me. So when you're exposed to cold, when you're exposed to an external stressor like cold, it has a way of trimming the fat. So it has a way of eliminating what isn't useful to you in that moment. So when your hands were in the ice bucket, you were better able to focus on your breath than if your hands were not in that bucket. Why? Because your breath was the key to removing the stressor. You found that through a calmer breath, the pain, the perceived pain would be less, and you were able to. So it's true. So when you're faced with a stressor, you tend to zone in on only the critical elements. And so the guy who cuts you off in traffic is less relevant when your hands are in ice or when you're exposed to a stressor. So knowing the mechanism at work, that it is trimming the fat and getting rid of really what's not necessary, will help you kind of better handle stress management with other things that may happen in your life. It trims the fat. It puts you in. And the same thing, I mean, we can talk about cold as a tool. Another thing in life that does this, and some people might be familiar, is when you're going through bouts of just sadness or, perceived depression even, it trims the fat. Your words when you talk to people are more succinct. You're not as long-winded. You only say the things that are just critical to get your point across because you're battling, right? You're in a fight. In your mind, it's a stress. Your body doesn't know the difference. It trims the fat. It makes life more succinct, and you focus on the things that matter most. Yeah. And it's good to have control over that. And this type of training will help you have control over that.
I'll say absolutely, for sure, when it comes to I notice this most when I do jujitsu, because you're in a situation where you're grappling with somebody, but the level of calm I'm able to keep in all situations and rolling makes a massive difference in terms of my gas tank. And even if I'm not in the greatest situation against somebody, I don't panic, because the breath controls it. It makes a fucking huge difference.
People like to sleep on the breath. They like to focus on the tangible, the things, the size of the muscle. They like to look at but the breath is the engine. Your lungs and your heart are the engine that controls all of that. And it doesn't get enough, I don't think it gets enough focus.
Is there anything you do as far as your athletes in terms of utilizing cold or hot or any type of sauna, cold, what, do you do anything there? Or do you utilize anything there?
Love cold therapy.
What kind?
Cold plunge.
Cold plunging.
Yeah.
Okay. Versus cryo, because I don't do cryotherapy, but I've heard people talk about it, and I'm curious, do you know the differences?
Yeah, you're not going to get the same effects from. Also, one of the biggest things that we need to speak about is adherence. Adherence to anything, whether it's a diet, exercise regime, that's probably the biggest risk factor to anybody getting to where they want.
Yeah.
It's not going and doing it once. So cryotherapy is a lot of money, right?
Kobe Bryant had one in his house. Why can't we?
Yeah, exactly. And Tony Robbins also has one. Really? So if you some of my athletes want to get one, I'm like, no, just get a cold plunge.
Yeah.
And the cold plunge seems to work a lot better, especially so when there's differences. You have got, when we submerge ourselves in cold water, we release something called cold shock proteins. Likely if we're going to the sauna, we're releasing heat shock proteins. And these cold shock proteins are amazing. They can immediately raise the amount of norepinephrine that is secreted. And that's that hormone or neurotransmitter, depending on where it's coming from, is involved in vigilance, focus. That's why it's so good to do these first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So I love that. And it also has an effect when it comes to TBI in the brain through this pathway called the RBM3 pathway.
Sorry, what's TBI?
Traumatic brain injury.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really great for athletes who are getting hits to the head, traumas to the head, which is just so deleterious. I don't know why people are doing these sports.
Yeah.
So it can help with that. So I love the cold for both the mood boosting benefits, but also the brain boosting benefits. However, I think there's a myth around the window of when to get into these cold baths.
Ooh.
Yeah. So you can mitigate the effects of a hypertrophy session if you get into the cold bath 10 minutes after training.
Let me ask you this, because there's so many people that we've heard say this, and we even tell people, be a little bit careful, but let's say you do lift, right? How long later would you suggest somebody get in? Maybe the next morning? Is that something that you would have them just keep it away from your lifting session?
I would generally say 3-hour window.
3-hour window?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's okay. Yeah. When I was a triathlete, no one was getting into cold plunges, but we were straight after swimming. We'd have in our Yeah,
Why?
and now for some reason we'd get, but you got to remember Australia. So I was training in an indoor pool.
Okay.
So we'd train, and you'd be so hot because we'd be training so much. He'd just push us into this cold bath, and where we would be training, they'd have a cold bath, and then we'd go from there into the spa, back into the cold, and he used to just throw ice on us. It was, I trained with all men as well, and 100% of my athletes now are men.
Why?
I know. Where are the ladies at? I don't know. Maybe they're scared of me. I don't know, but if it's funny. Yeah. All of my lads are lads because I work with NBA, NFL, cricket. I wanted to work with Serena. She was my gold athlete, and then she went and retired.
Yeah. You got Osaka. Maybe you can get her. Naomi Osaka.
I want to get her. Yeah. She actually, I think she needs me.
There we go.
If she's listening.
Nootropics. Every single biohacker and their mother talks about the benefits of lion's mane or alpha GPC, blah, blah, blah. We have this mix of supplement, but no one really tells you how to analyze what you actually should be trying to take or what problems you may have. That's why Andy Triana has made the Nootropics ebook now on our website at powerproject.live. Now, we've had Andy on our podcast multiple times, and he's educated us on so many different things along with nootropics. But in this ebook, he goes in depth on how to analyze what your problems may be specifically and how to utilize nootropics to help fix those issues or to help progress in certain areas. Like if you're wanting to speak better, think faster, communicate better. There's so many things he goes in depth on in this ebook, and you can get it now on our website at powerproject.live. The link's in the description along with the podcast show notes.
What do you guys think of cold plunging versus exercise? Obviously they're different things, but we were talking a little bit in the gym about maybe for some people it might be a little easier just to get in a cold plunge.
I think so. Yeah. It depends on the person. Like you guys live in the gym, so maybe the gym's easier, but for most people, you said it's passive, right? You just sit down in there and it's so quick. 90 seconds is a good enough plunge, whereas a workout, you got to take time, then you're sweaty and then you shower. So it's a more time commitment. So the ROI can be super quick.
Yeah. My biggest resistance with working out is actually thinking about the working out. I have to prep it out. That's a lot for me. But getting in the cold, it's dude, 3 minutes and you're going to feel that. My mind can grasp, it's only 3 minutes away. And you say ROI, for me, it's a lot easier.
We're also talking about how you feel after a workout. And what he's saying is how you feel after a plunge to me is always amazing. You're smiling, you get it. You feel incredible. Sometimes after a workout, you feel worse, but for a plunge, it's every time I'm smiling. So.
Yeah, after a workout, you could have kind of overdone it. You could have slightly tweaked something. And by no means are we comparing exercise and cold plunging. We still think you need to exercise, but we're just talking about kind of changing your mood. And I think that it's a really simple thing, just like getting in your car and putting on music that you like or music that you enjoy or listening to your favorite podcaster. That's something that might make your drive a little bit more enjoyable. And to me, getting the cold plunge in the morning, even though it's not always the easiest thing, it's so simple that I'm let me just go in. And then sometimes there's that negative thing that says, you got other shit to do. You got places to be. You got to, and I find myself doing dad stuff, turning lights off and putting stuff away. And I don't ever do any of that. And then I'm I got to just go in the goddamn, this is ridiculous. What am I doing? I'm doing all this shit that I normally would never do.
Right. But then you do the thing that you're kind of afraid of, right? And the more you do that, you get the momentum and you start looking at everything. Oh, what else am I afraid to do? What else am I avoiding? Go do that. If you have that rhythm, you're a force, right?
It's helped with a lot of reinterpretation of a lot of things. Just it raining out, I'm driving to go do my run. I'm not even, it's okay, it's raining. Oh shit. Okay. Now it's actually pouring. All right. Well, I still am going to do my run.
Totally.
So it's really helped with a lot of stuff. And then even just in terms of temperature regulation, I saw Paul Chek the other day talking on Instagram saying how he thinks it's kind of ridiculous that people are so unhealthy they can't regulate their own body temperature. And I don't think that people even think or realize that A, this is a problem, and B, this is a solvable thing. When your hands are really cold all the time, I've seen Wim Hof talk about it before, this practice of putting your hands in cold water or ice for 3 minutes. So somebody that's always cold, thinking like this is the worst thing for me to do, and my hands are always cold. I forget what the symptom is or what it's called, but they said that a lot of it can be solved simply by putting your hands in ice water for I think 3 minutes for like a week straight can really help the symptoms to go away. And it's like, holy shit, okay, that's difficult, but the outcome and the result, and that's what I'm obsessed with. That's why when I do have something that deters me from doing something slightly, I'm like, no, you want the result. Like, don't forget about the result. The result's going to be great. Like, getting out of the cold plunge is going to be amazing. So just go into the cold plunge.
I was curious about the autoimmune stuff that you guys were talking about a bit. Because I want, like, you guys probably get so many people that call in and send you guys reviews and just how it's helped them. But what kind of stuff have you seen as far as autoimmune issues and how it's helped? And maybe why is it helping with that?
It's lowering the inflammation. Is number one.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike, our sales guy, Michael, has MS.
Same.
So he's in like 2-3 times a day, and I mean, he just feels way better. Do you have any other like?
I mean, I think to me, what I'm noticing, it's like autoimmune tends to be a imbalance of the nervous system. It's like whether it's parasympathetic, sympathetic, like your body, there's an imbalance going on in the body.
Yeah.
Cold is a way to balance that. I mean, like Doug Steiny, he was a guy that was on his deathbed. He's a Wim Hof practitioner. We've had him in to teach at our company. You know, his story is incredible. He was one that was a realtor, high stress lifestyle, farthest from breath work, cold plunging, any of it. Thought he was fine. Within 48 hours, he was paralyzed in a hospital. And they were like, we don't know if you'll ever walk again or if you'll live. We don't know what to do for you. Sent him home, paralyzed in his house for months. He had young children. He was in his 60s at that time, so he had kids a little later. And I mean, it's on YouTube. It's an incredible story. And his son found out about Wim Hof and was like, Dad, there's a guy that doesn't get sick and he can heal himself. And that was, from his 9-year-old son, that was the story. And he was like, okay, that doesn't. So his dad's like, his son was like, all you got to do is get cold. You got to get in cold water. And so they would wheel him in, plop him into the shower, and just splash cold water on him.
Yeah.
Within, I mean, I don't want to butcher it was within like 6 to 8 weeks. He was moving, walking. He is now can do the splits, overhand, like he can snatch anything. It is the epitome of health.
Yeah.
And this was deathbed to all he did was they rolled him in, poured cold water on him. He learned to breathe in there. And, his body adapted and kind of rebalanced itself from like a nervous system standpoint. So I think there's, it varies per person in what they're going through, but that to me is we see that group have the quickest results. Like they get it a weekend. I'm noticing a massive difference. So it's an area that we would like to, from research and study, like kind of figure out what's going on there. But it's when someone calls in and they're like, I think I'm gonna get into the plunge. I've lost all hope. I don't know what route to go. I get really excited when I hear about those people because it's like, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a big difference for people that are really, really resistant to it having maybe a stronger impact for some of them? People who are like, there's just cold and me, like we don't mix. Like
that's my girlfriend.
I can't do it. I'll never do it. I'll never try it. Like, and then if there is some sort of encouragement and they do actually get in, have you noticed like a profound difference for some of those folks?
I think what we notice is like partners, like, the husband wants it. The wife's like, I don't want this thing. Like, it's going to take up space. Well, he gets it. She gets in with him for the first time, and then she becomes the one that's doing it all the time. So I think from a resistance standpoint, I haven't really seen anyone that's resistant unless their mental capacity, like how they perspective on life, they just are all about the resistance and they go into it. Usually it takes someone that kind of backdoors it in for them that gets them to want to get in. It's not one that's, it takes a mental resilience to actually be like, I want to get into a cold plunge, or I'm willing to.
I think one of the big things it helps with is like breathing, helping you to be able to be more resilient. Wim Hof has talked about it helping with the immune system. And one thing I notice is like
Cold showers are cool because like they get you ready for the morning, but I've noticed that as I've cold plunged more and as I've gotten used to it, I just seem to be a bit more calm. It does have performance effects, but I just seem to be able to just be in just general more resilient. My breath control is better, so it's pretty dope. So I
love how you're talking as you're making this super elaborate protein coffee thing or something. What is this? Because this,
yeah, dude, it's the Fairlife.
You guys you don't understand how like strange Nsima is until you start to hang out with him every day.
It's the Fairlife salted caramel mixed with some Fairlife chocolate, and I have some coffee down there, and then yeah, it tastes fucking amazing, man.
So good.
It tastes so good.
You have salted caramel?
I'll give you some. I have some in my trunk. So I'll give you, if you mix them, it's a 60-gram protein bomb, man.
Oh my gosh.
And it just goes down the hatch super easily.
Damn.
Yeah.
So the cold plunge, you think it's helping you to be just maybe a little bit calmer in life in general? I mean, you're already pretty calm, but.
Yeah. No. I think it just helps me be a little bit more calm and a little bit more resilient. And it also has its immune system benefits, which I dig that a lot. But try taking a cold shower each morning. Just try that. You don't have a cold plunge at home, take a cold shower each morning and get yourself used to that. You'll notice some just differences throughout your day. I'll say that. You gotta try it first. And then Andrew Huberman did a whole episode on cold therapy and cold plunging and all that.
How cold is the thingy?
This morning it was 40 degrees, but it can go down to 36. So yesterday morning, I just got it this past weekend. I just finished setting it up.
You have it at your house?
Yeah, it's in my backyard.
Okay.
So
is that from the place in Sacramento?
Yeah, it's the Cold Plunge people are based in Sacramento, so they're really dope. So it came out this weekend, but I finished setting it up. I think it can be like up to, they have a one that's a hot and cold, but mine's just cold. So it can be 60 degrees or you can take it all the way down to 36 degrees. So yesterday morning I did 44 degrees. This morning I did 40 degrees. And tomorrow I'm just going to take it to its lowest because it doesn't like it.
Otherwise it'd be frozen, right?
Yeah. But 36 degrees and it's nice. Sitting there for 5 minutes in the morning.
There's some stupid weird stuff that I mess around with just from having different people on the show and just from like, I don't know, studying like philosophy and kind of like thinking about how things are a choice and things of that nature. And, you know, it's been cold, it's been windy, it's been kind of rainy. And when I go in my hot tub, it's like really cold outside. I got to walk out to the hot tub and it's windy and rainy at the same time. And plus the temperature is low. I used to go out and I used to kind of anticipate, okay, it's going to be cold. And because I already thought that in my head, I was already like up in my own head and I would shiver when I'd go out there. And I'm just like, just go outside and see if you have the ability to practice not shivering.
Yeah.
I'll go out and sometimes it's pretty cold and I got to just like breathe out a bunch and calm my breathing down. But I found that I don't have to shiver. It's amazing at all the different things that you can control. You brought up Wim Hof and I haven't really dove into like messing around with a lot of his stuff, but I'd imagine that almost naturally you would probably want to breathe pretty rapidly, like you're hyperventilating almost, getting into that cold water. Is that something that you're doing, or are you just trying to be like super calm with your breath?
Yeah. So Wim Hof has his own breathing, like his whole Wim Hof breathing thing. And he actually says, do not do this in water because it causes some people to get lightheaded and some people have fainted. So
if you faint in water, not a good idea.
Oh yeah. There have been some people, that's why he warns people, do not do the Wim Hof hyperventilating breath holds or whatever in water. Because if you pass out, you're dead. And that's happened to people, which is why you shouldn't do that specific breathing in there. But the initial feeling when you get into a cold plunge is like people, that's what they want to do. But what you want to do is you want to calm your breathing down because you notice once you calm your breathing down, and what was his name? Mike,
Mutzel?
Not Mike Mutzel, the guy that we had on that he pull-up record.
Oh, Mike Castle.
Mike Castle. Yeah. He also talked about this, where if you're able to calm your breathing down to your heart rate, like I have my Apple Watch on, and it's interesting how once I sit in the cold plunge, my heart rate goes from like 67 to 90, 100. Then once I start just slowing down my breathing, it'll come down to 65, 60, 55, 50. And it'll just stay there if I control my breathing. But if I lose control or if I start to like feel it and get too cold, then the heart rate starts to skyrocket back up. So you also get the ability to better control your heart rate, your breath, calm down. And you notice that it just is easy if you're able to stay calm.
And you're getting a little bit of feedback from your watch, but we've heard Andrew Huberman talk about this a lot, where there's a lot of science and research to back up particular types of breathing for particular conditions. He's a big fan of kind of the double breathing in, the kind of
physiological sigh.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and then followed by a good sigh. In his research and in research that he's studied, I believe, there was a lot of evidence showing that it can help calm you down, help kind of bring that heart rate down. And it's like, well, shit, like if that to me is something that's like, that's too easy not to do. It's too easy not to pick up that habit. Like the habit sounds great. You just got some really bad news that your Bitcoin isn't worth what it used to be, or whatever the thing is. Go ahead and try the double sigh. It's not going to fix the actual thing that threw you off, but it will help to alleviate some pressure, help alleviate some stress. I did not know that Wim Hof talks about not doing that breathing in the water, because sometimes in my hot tub, I've been practicing kind of trying to change my oxygen to CO2 ratio in the hot tub just to see how long I can hold my breath.
Be careful, my friend. We want you here for a very long time.
So it's probably good that I've only tried like small doses of it, because I think he wants you to do it for like X amount of minutes.
Yeah,
you know,
do multiple sets of it, and at the last one, you're apparently able to hold your breath for like 2 or 3 minutes. You're just able to hold.
Yeah, so like in just doing like, I don't know, maybe 20 breaths in and out. Kind of. I'm not doing the hyperventilating. What I'm doing is I'm just breathing in excessively. That tastes gross, doesn't it?
God dang, this is bad. This is bad. Okay.
You've been closer though since we got the new show. You've been a little closer. So maybe when we get the newer show, maybe you'll start to make some money. But so anyway, I've been breathing in and breathing out and changing that, like probably my percentage of CO2 to oxygen or something, and I'm able to hold my breath probably for 3 or 4 times longer, just going under the water than I used to be able to. So
have you ever tried Wim Hof
interesting stuff?
I did it enough because I tried the cold shower thing and I didn't really like that. But then I was mentioned on the podcast before, it's totally coincidental, but I did the cold therapy thing in the shower, or I just turned it cold. I had the worst cold ever shortly after that. So I was already gonna be sick. Like there's no way there's no way to avoid that. But like getting that cold that fast, I think just like, let's go. And that, dude, I got so sick. But doing the breathing thing, I remember like my pinkies were getting numb. So I'm like, I probably shouldn't do this anymore. And it felt really weird. So I haven't done it since then.
Yeah. It's a pretty interesting practice. I have the app. I haven't done it in a while, but I've done it a few times. And after you finish the Wim Hof breathing, like if you follow the way he does it, like you feel like you have this head high and you're just like, let's fucking go. Like you feel it. Like it's like a shot of caffeine. It really is. And it only takes 7 or 8 minutes a day. Y'all should try that. Download Wim Hof's app and give it a shot because it's pretty fun. Just don't do it in water, please. Just don't do it in water.
I didn't even know there was an app.
Yeah. The cold therapy type stuff. I mean, I have a sauna, so I go from my sauna to the shower, and it's pretty easy to do the cold therapy from there because you got really, really hot.
Yeah.
And so it's not nearly as difficult, but I still found some utility in just exposing myself to the cold. I also have I have a double shower head. I have like a detachable shower head, and I've actually just kind of messed with that in a way where I'm just using like almost like localized cold rather than like getting crushed by like a ton of cold water. But I found the shower to be fairly easy to adapt to.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to say easy, but like it doesn't take long. Just be a real pussy about it at first. Like honestly, like don't be like, oh, I got to make it all the way cold, and don't get too crazy with it right away. But just
you can start at warm, and then go to cold, and then go back to warm.
70 degrees might feel cold when normally the temperature is 100 or 110 or whatever the normal shower temperature is. And then plus, in a shower, like the water's only hitting like a certain part So I found that like my back and my sides isn't as bad. Now, if I turn to the front and it gets, like on your chest and nippies and your weenus, then it starts to get, it's a little harder to deal with. But what you'll find is that if you practice breathing and you try to calm yourself down, you'll be super stoic and just standing there in the fucking cold ass water, like without sweating it.
Yeah. Power Project family, shut your fucking mouth. We've been talking about breathing through your nose and nasal breathing during your sleep for the past 5 years. That's why we've partnered with Hostage Tape. It's the best tape on the market, sticks to your face even if you have a beard. So head to hostagetape.com/Power Project and you'll be able to get a year's supply of tape for 55 cents a day. That shit saves you $150. It's a no-brainer. Links in the description and the podcast show notes. Enjoy the show. I will say, because there's going to be someone who's going to comment, but you want the inflammatory response after you work out. There's been research to show that it blunts hypertrophy. Mark, what do you think about it? I'm just curious, dog.
I think it's crap, man. I think, consistency is king. So, fit stuff in wherever you can.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly how this like research paper was done. I never really looked at it. I never really tend to care about the research of stuff. I think it's overblown a lot of times. And like, let's just say hypothetically that it shows 1 hour after training that maybe it has detrimental effects on your hypertrophy. It's like, how many people have access to the cold, literally 1 hour after training? Plus, how do we know that, okay, maybe it showed that it didn't have a positive impact on hypertrophy in this condensed period of time with these particular people? But how do we know, like over time, over the 6-week period, that the overall benefits of the cold still didn't have more of a positive impact on people? So I don't really love to look at that kind of stuff, but I have changed for myself when I get into the cold, but that actually has more to do with just my activity in the morning. I've been running every morning. And so I was like, I want to try to amplify my run. I was trying like coffee and some kratom and stuff. I was like, let me just get into the cold like that. Nothing's going to fire me up better than that. Cause sometimes coffee will work, sometimes a little caffeine works and other times it doesn't land on me perfectly. So, and then plus I don't want to have any like digestion issues as I'm running. So like, let me just hit that cold plunge up for 3 minutes. But I don't think there's really a big concern about muscle hypertrophy.
And I might be like way off, but I think that one of the studies, at least that people point to, like if you actually dive into it, it was something like they did like a run or a workout, whatever, and like they put like 1 foot into an ice bucket. And they were like showed that like, oh, your left and right are a lot different. Therefore, cold plunging is bullshit. It's like, whoa. Like, and again, I could be way off, but I'm pretty sure memory serves me correctly on that one.
No, totally. They were putting their calf
in
the cold, one calf.
Okay.
So measured the size of the muscle growth. Yeah.
So,
that was it.
So if you want to base a lot of your belief in this one fucking study that I think we can all agree was like not done properly.
Again, how many people are very specifically also training for hypertrophy? So if you're super worried about it, I guess you can just not cold plunge on that particular day after your workout.
No, I think that's a good, I mean, if you're training for some competition, like maybe you want to bring that in. I think for the average person, to me, it's a long game. Like, am I trying to show back up tomorrow and like get my workout in? Like you're talking about jujitsu, like
absolutely.
You're capable now to go again. I think that's where most of us lie. But yeah, if you have a massive bodybuilding competition, maybe you don't do it right after a workout. I don't know. I don't think we have enough really research to understand that. But I think to me, it goes back to like listening to our bodies. Like, how do I feel after like if I work out and cold plunge, like measure yourself over that month. Like, am I still working out hard? Am I feeling good in my body? To me, that's the most important thing. And if the answer is yes, then I think it's a great program, as opposed to like, I can't do it because this paper said that.
And these practices have been around forever. I mean, athletes have been doing this for a long time, but just people there wasn't like cold plunge companies. There was like, I guess there were maybe different versions of them, but there was like, the 49ers and all these teams, they've had versions of some sort of cold plunge or some sort of ice bath after their training. And I realize that's after conditioning maybe and not necessarily after strength, but people have been utilizing these techniques for many, many years.
Totally. And I think, again, just find out, discover it. Like, people got to go and kind of see how their body responds to it. It's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, and definitely like because it's not like we're shitting on research, but like I'm someone who I'll pay attention to it, right? So like if I lifted, sometimes I'll only cold plunge for 30 seconds to a minute. Like I won't usually cold plunge for 3 minutes or 4 minutes like I typically do in the morning. Do 30 seconds to a minute because I just feel better.
Exactly.
And then boom, keep the progress going. Because if you're worried about that, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, it's very comfortable. It's Lulu. It's fleece.
God, that feels good.
Lulu.
You guys got to feel that.
Hit us up, guys. But dude, it is really crazy how much better you feel, especially after like a hard jiu-jitsu workout or Mark, a hard run. Cold plunging for a little bit, just you can tell the recovery difference on a day-to-day basis. And I kind of think about that, like if you are a lifter, one thing to think about is what if you're able to work out more often and with more volume because you feel better each day. So you're doing a 5-week training program. Usually you feel beat up on the next day you have to work out and the next day you have to work out. But let's say that now the next day you feel a little bit fresher and you can move more training volume. I don't know. There's been no research into that, but maybe the amount of more volume you're able to work with counteracts the slight inflammatory, response or decrease inflammation that you get from cold plunging. It's just test it out and see what you actually feel. Because sometimes this research is bullshit.
Yeah, and you cannot deny like how much better your workout is when you're just feeling good. Like when you're literally like in a good mood. Like the music's hitting today, like the coffee was hitting today, or the pre-workout, whatever. And then you're like, dude, I just had such a good day, and then I had such a good workout. It's like, well, what if you can have a good day every time you went to work out? It's like, absolutely.
Just something to try. Who was that researcher who we were talking about one day where she did the research on how certain people see stress as like this stress, like when I do jiu-jitsu, when you do running, that I'm going to have a benefit after I do this, right? When we do certain things that are stressful, like cold plunging, it may actually be physically stressful, but on the other side of this, it's going to be beneficial. So we interpret that as being something good for us rather than something that's going to break us down. And that it takes time to constantly reinterpret, but that makes a huge difference.
I heard a quote kind of recently, and it really made me maybe just rethink a lot of stuff. And the quote said, "If you're so smart, why aren't you happy?" I was like, holy fuck, man. That's incredible. Like that was an incredible quote. Like people read a lot of books, they do a lot of thinking, they go to universities, they do a lot of school, they get as much education as they can, and all those things are awesome. But if they kind of aren't leading you to, not that you have to chase happiness, or if not leading you to have a net positive, net happy life, then maybe none of it's worth it.
Totally. Naval talks about that a lot. Naval. You
familiar with
Naval? Might even be his quote, but he talks about
he has a lot of quotes on Twitter, and then I think he's been on Joe Rogan before.
Yeah, he's a great,
philosopher, yeah.
Philosopher, great business individual too. He created Angels List. But he that's his thing, is happiness. Like he speaks in the same way. Like if you're so intelligent, like that is intelligence, is actually, are you happy?
What's the goal? It reminds me of Andrew Yang. His actual goal was like health and happiness for people.
Yeah, it's like outside of GDP,
whoa, wait, what?
It's like how do we measure society's health and happiness?
It's like I've just never heard that from a politician. And that should be the goal, right? Like you're saying, like everyone's so smart, like what is your goal? And like a lot of people by default have it be, money, or you're chasing the next thing, and what is the goal? Well,
health, I think, is like the foundation, right? Like if you don't have the health, you can't enjoy the wealth. If you don't have the health, you can't enjoy really much of anything.
I'm always so impressed with people that though are not healthy, and they just have this they're these anomalies to me that are like so happy. You know what I'm talking about? Like someone that's like, just whoever it is, it's like they're maybe really obese or something, but they're just like so joyous. I'm like, what's that secret going on there? Because I'm very much like, if I feel off health wise, like I'm just
it's such a rarity though.
I'm such an asshole.
Most people I come into, or I'm like, this person's electric. Like they're usually like
totally
very fit. It's usually like high cardio.
Yep.
Like you're a huge runner or cyclist or something. It's like always something like that. It's very rare to find the overweight person.
Totally.
Do you guys think that, I'm just curious from of your perception of this, do you think that you do need, because there's an aspect where I think about this, maybe we're jaded since we're in fitness and we feel there's such a need for this to be, like from what you said there too, I couldn't imagine like not having my physical habits that tie into my mental habits to feel good, right? But see, like the person you mentioned, right, that even though they're extremely out of shape or extremely unhealthy, they're still extremely happy. Do you think you need to use your body physically to maybe the extent that we do, or to a part of that to be happier?
I don't think there's an absolute answer to that.
Yeah.
I think from my experience, it is your odds are exponentially higher if you are moving your body, sweating, using that physical for aligning to have to be mentally stable or be happy. So I think from my experience, that's all I can speak from. Like when I'm not being physically like moving, and whether it's just long walks, like, and I'm, whatever the movement is, I'm not as happy. Like this isn't a chemical erector set that's going on in here, and it's just pulling the right lever. So for me, it's been essential for me.
I think the body is designed, like the body, mind, and spirit is designed to burn an equal amount of calories that it consumes. So you have like your kind of like resting metabolic rate, which means like just calories from doing nothing. But I think that literally you got to expend, just in general, probably about 1,000 calories a day almost. I think it's ingrained into our DNA. I think it's like part of being human. I think locomotion is way undersold, and it's just extremely helpful. Some sort of motion, like you can go and like lift, and you can, I don't know, there's a lot of things you can do. But I think they used to say that people used to move like 5 to 7 miles a day, and that might even be really modest. So you have like, what is the calorie expenditure associated with traveling in a pack with your family with a little bit of weight on your back? Maybe you're holding a child and you're, going from one area to another, just as we probably did hundreds and thousands of years ago. There was so much, like, especially here in America, there was so much like building, and there was just so much shit going on that like, there was people working on the railroad, there was construction workers, there was just people fucking riding horses to deliver mail. I mean, like the list of shit goes on and on of like the amount of activity that it took to bring this place to the spot that it's at now, where we have the luxury of not expending those calories. But I think that motion is ingrained in there somewhere, and I think that's why when some people start to get in motion, they get so obsessed with it. It's like a psychedelic in there. Like it's in your fucking brain. I've talked to some people that swim, and I'm talking to some people that run, and I don't know what the connection, and fighting definitely falls in that category. There's problem solving going on, and then there's also, I have this weird idea that there's some sort of particular motion that your body needs to go through every day. And it has something to do with like your hands and feet being kind of far apart from each other, away from the midline of your body, and your body twisting. I've heard Joe Rogan kind of describing it, and he's just like talking really generally, but he's talking about like wringing out stress and anxiety. That's fucking running. It's like you're literally wringing out your body, like I was showing you guys with that continuous rope.
Yeah.
You're pulling that rope, like that spinal twisting that you're doing. And David Weck and all these people that are so enthusiastic about these kind of movement patterns. I think that's why we're nuts about it. I think that you have to.
Feels good to run, dog. Like after I started running again, because like you were, you started running, I was like, I got to bring running back into it. And I've been doing jujitsu for years already, but getting my running gait back and that feeling, when you get your gait back and when you feel good running, it just feels so fucking good. Even if you're not running for fucking like 10 miles or whatever, I'll just do 2-mile runs, but it feels so damn good afterwards, even during.